Matthew is the second longest gospel, but it contains just two brief stories about Jesus appearing after his resurrection. As brief as these stories are, however, the second story has been one of the most consequential for the life of the church ever since. In fact, there are Christians who place this one event at the very center of their belief system. They call themselves Great Commission Christians. What is this story, and why is it so consequential? Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Monday, April 1st, 2024. The first appearance of Jesus that Matthew records takes place on that first morning, shortly after the two women, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, have discovered the empty tomb. As they are hurrying back to where the disciples were staying, presumably in Bethany, about a 20 or 30-minute walk from where Jesus was buried, they see Jesus, who appears unexpectedly. We read, "Suddenly Jesus met them and said, 'Greetings.' And they came to him, took hold of his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, 'Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me.'" There are a variety of interesting tidbits here that I won't go into detail about now. For example, the women immediately recognize Jesus. Compare this to Luke's account of meeting two disciples on the road to Emmaus. In that story, the disciples do not recognize him until much later on, when he breaks bread with them that evening. But the really important thing in this account is his instruction to them to send his disciples to Galilee, where he promises to appear to them. You'll recognize the passage immediately as one I quote every time I baptize a child or an adult. We call it the Great Commission. Matthew writes, "Now the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age.'" I think you can see why this particular passage has such power and why it remains so important, particularly to the folks who call themselves Great Commission Christians. It is simple and direct, straightforward. Of course, different Christian groups have understood it in a whole variety of ways. Some have seen it as a mandate to forcibly convert people. That actually happened in parts of Central and South America in the 16th century, often with horrifying results. Others have seen it as a direct warrant for missionary work, especially missionary work aimed at the preaching of the gospel with the hope of persuading new peoples to accept the Christian gospel and become baptized disciples. And still others have seen it as a more general directive for the Christian life. According to this view, the primary duty of the church and of each Christian is to proclaim the gospel message, both in word and in action, in hopes of attracting others into the church. Of these, it is the second interpretation that has had the most widespread impact. It is why, for example, there are Christians in nearly every country in the world. In the 19th century, Christian denominations in Europe and America made a concerted effort to evangelize the whole world. Recognizing that no one Christian group could do the whole work of evangelization everywhere, different denominational groups worked in different areas of the world. Presbyterians, for example, focused on Korea, China, parts of Central Africa, and Brazil. To this day, you'll find Presbyterian churches in all those places. Indeed, there are more than twice as many Presbyterians in South Korea as there are in the entire United States. It is hard to overstate, therefore, just how important this passage has been in the work of the church throughout history. But there is one more thing in this passage that is even more important, and you probably didn't really even hear it. It's the phrase, "In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit." Believe it or not, This is the only place in the entire Bible that explicitly mentions the Trinity in such direct fashion. Literally nowhere else will you find Father, Son, and Holy Spirit mentioned together quite this way. While we tend to focus on Christ's missionary command, it is this simple phrase that really defines the church as a whole. I'll circle back to this again later, but for now, it is enough to know that to be Christian is to be Trinitarian. It is literally baked into who we are. Tomorrow, do you know why some small sects of Christians believe in snake handling? It is because of one passage in the Gospel of Mark when Jesus empowers his followers for their mission in the world. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.